My parents used to work at a mall near the old church in Westfield. It was just a regular mall with small stores and some boutiques. Mom and Dad had a store where they used to sell gifting items along with some electronics. I always went there after I came from school. It had been my first place to go and I always liked it there as a kid. The store was in a quiet part of the mall. There weren't a lot of people around, especially in the evening, and there was a stairwell right next to it which no one really used. But for me, it was the fastest route to our store, so I always used it to go up and down. One day I was going down the stairs heading to our store, but then I saw a guy standing at the bottom of the stairs. There was the employees-only corridor leading to the back exit of the mall. The guy was facing toward the corridor. It looked like he was thinking about going through the corridor, but he didn't look like someone who worked there, and I knew almost everyone who worked there. I didn't think much of it. In the end, he was just a guy standing in a public place. But then, as soon as I got to the bottom of the stairs, he started walking toward me. I still wasn't thinking much of it at first, but the guy then stood right next to me. He then touched my arm. I was instantly on alert mode. What was he doing? I stared at him and asked him why he grabbed me, but the guy didn't say anything at first. He just smiled at me. I yelled at him to let me go, but he didn't. He told me he didn't mean to seem weird or anything, but I looked absolutely gorgeous. I was totally caught off guard. I didn't know what to say to him. I removed his hand politely and started to walk away from him. I thought that was it. I got rid of the guy. But then the guy came again and grabbed my arm. His hold was tighter this time. I started panicking. The guy then asked me how old I was. I was quite young back then, so I still wasn't able to understand why he was doing this. I thought maybe if I acted nice to him, he would let me go. So I told him I was 14. He didn't believe me. He said there was no way I was 14. He removed his hand. I was feeling a bit of relief. I thought he would let me go now after finding out my age. He would think I was too young for him. But he didn't. He told me about a kiosk he had and he wanted me to come with him. I refused, telling him I had to go or my parents would start looking for me. I started heading towards my parents' store as fast as I could. I was thinking maybe the guy wouldn't bother me after finding out my age. But that's when he grabbed my hand again. It was different this time. He was holding it so hard that it hurt my wrist. The guy then started dragging me towards the corridor. I was terrified. I tried to scream for help, but before I could do that, he put his hand over my mouth. I was panicking. His hand was over my mouth. I was unable to breathe. I didn't know what to do. I then stopped moving. I then dropped to the floor like a dead weight. I went limp. I don't know why I did that or if it was out of instinct, but it was enough to get his hand off my mouth. His hand slipped off my mouth for a fraction of a second, and I screamed with every ounce of my strength. But just as I was screaming, he started strangling me. I was unable to breathe. I saw him dragging me through the corridor. There was no breaking free of his tight grip. I knew I was not going to get out of this. But suddenly, I heard footsteps. Loud thumping started to fill the area in just a few seconds. The man froze, his eyes wide with a cold, hard rage. Then he released me. The man then vanished into the corridor. I laid on the floor while the mall employees were coming. I was gasping for air. My body was shaking uncontrollably. The employees rushed to me, their faces etched with concern. I could barely speak. I just sobbed and pointed toward the corridor. They searched for the man everywhere, but they didn't find anything. A few minutes passed and the police came. They combed the mall, reviewed the security footage, but he was gone. He was a shadow that had slipped through their fingers. A few days had passed and the cops reviewed everything. They found out he wasn't an employee. He didn't own a kiosk. It was a trap to lure me. They said he'd been seen on security footage for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. I had escaped that day, but the guy took my sense of safety for the rest of my life. I bought a property in 2018 near Prescott. The place was around 40 acres and it was mostly trees and open land. The house was tucked away in the distance, far secluded from the road. You wouldn't even know where the house was unless you knew exactly where to look. There was a clearing on the east side which I thought would be perfect for feeling the wind in my face and chilling out. The house wasn't a mansion or anything, but it was a good-sized place where I could enjoy living. The previous owner didn't bother to fence the area, so I made the decision to fence it after I settled in. 2 days after moving into the place, I decided to explore it a little. I found some overgrown weeds in the backyard along with some moss covering the walls. I had to fix it. When I was exploring the clearing, I saw a dull gray thing hidden deep in the trees near the clearing. When I went closer, I found an old tent between the oak trees. It was clean. Too clean, in fact. There was a sleeping bag which was rolled up neatly, a bag full of snacks, mosquito repellent, sodas, and a pack of cigarettes. It wasn't some drunk teenagers as I had thought. Someone was living there. I knew the place had been abandoned for years, but it still didn't make it less weird finding out someone had been living on my property all this time. I raised my voice, calling out for whoever lived there. I was hoping somebody would answer, but nobody did. I rolled the tent up and went back to the house. I thought they'd probably be gone the next day, but they weren't. The next day I went to check the place. The tent was still there. I was a little frustrated. I thought of removing the tent myself if I didn't see it gone before dawn. As I was heading inside the house, I found something strange. There were 2 rusty bolts stuck upright near my front door. It didn't make any sense. I had no recollection of putting those there. I thought nothing of it, so I just threw them away and went inside. In the evening, when I went back to the clearing, I saw the sleeping bag wasn't rolled up anymore. It was flat, like someone had just used it. I was infuriated. Someone was still living there, despite all my warnings. I yelled again, much louder this time. I said whoever was living there, they needed to leave. I didn't stop there. I called the non-emergency line and reported the issue. They said they'd send someone soon. An hour passed, and a police officer was at my doorstep. I took him to the site, but we didn't find anything. The tent was gone, disappeared like it had never been there. The only thing left were the holes the tent poles made and patches of yellow, dead grass around the area. The cops said he couldn't do anything if he didn't find any solid evidence. He said it was probably a hiker who didn't know it was private property. I told him I would inform him if anything else happened again. That night I woke up hearing something outside. The sound was coming from the direction where the tent was. I heard a rustling crunch of leaves slowly getting louder each time. Something unknown was approaching the house. I thought it was probably some small animal hunting for rats or something. But then I heard a loud knock on the door. It startled me. I grabbed the flashlight and pointed it at the window. There was nothing, just empty darkness. I was awake for quite some time. I couldn't sleep much that night. Next morning I found something engraved on my porch railing. It said, "Leave me alone," with uneven letters and the E missing from alone. I called the cops again. They sent 3 cops this time. The cops searched the whole area. They searched the woods and the surroundings of the house, but there was nothing. The cops asked if I had any grudge with any of my neighbors. I refused. I had just moved there and my closest neighbor is half a mile away. And he didn't seem like the type of person. They told me to call them as soon as something happened. But I couldn't wait for something like that to happen again. I locked every door, every window, and sat in the living room with the lights on. I was trying to listen for anything strange. To ease my mind, I thought maybe it was someone twisted, pulling a prank on me. But I couldn't shake the feeling it was more than that. Next morning, another message. This time it was on the steps. "You should have listened to me." I immediately got goosebumps. I was panicking. I stopped going near the clearing. I just wanted it to stop. The feeling of being watched when I wasn't noticing was nothing more than a nightmare for me. I kept a baseball bat near my bed. For a few days nothing happened. But then one night I heard a loud scraping sound. It sounded like something had been dragged across the dirt. I grabbed the flashlight and the bat. I was ready for it to end, so I went outside as fast as I could. But I didn't see anyone. Whoever it was left a large boulder near the cactus trees. I went to the boulder. It was wet and full of scratch marks. There was a box placed on top of the large boulder. I opened it, thinking it was like the other threats I had received. But I was wrong. The box had pictures. They weren't just any pictures. They were candid shots taken when I was visiting my parents, going to my office, and meeting my friends. I was shaking. I felt utterly exposed. Someone knew all about me. I couldn't sleep that night, my mind racing through every person I'd ever encountered. I called my friend Jack and asked him about security cameras. He said it would take around 5 days to set up cameras near my location. Frustrated, I kept thinking about what I should do in the meantime. I had an old phone that I bought a few years ago. I didn't have any use for it since last year, so I set it up as a camera outside my porch. But to my surprise, when I checked it the next day, it was gone, leaving me with a more uneasy feeling. I knew I couldn't stay there anymore. I called the cops, told them everything, and booked a nearby motel for myself. The cops brought the canine unit. The clearing was empty. The cops searched every inch of the property. They didn't find anything. But then the dogs picked up something at the back of the house. There was another threat scratched into the back door. "This was your last warning." The cops kept searching the whole area for an hour. The dogs searched through every strand of grass. It was hopeless. The cops left and told me they would inform me if they found anything. I couldn't spend another night there anymore. I stayed in the motel and was planning to take my stuff and head to my parents the next morning. I was thinking of selling the place too. But then the next day, the cops called me. They said they found who was behind all this. I couldn't believe it. I headed to the station just after hearing this. The cops told me they had found a faint fingerprint the other day. They thought it was probably mine. But when they looked into it, they found out it matched with a guy named Tyler. I had never met the guy in my entire life. He was a janitor at a nearby graveyard. He was planning to buy the property cheaply, so he set up the plan to make me sell it. I saw the guy in the holding cells. I saw his face. He looked normal, but the way he looked at me, like I was the one who was wrong. He told the cops he was going to scare me off and had a whole plan for it. I was furious. I wanted to strangle him with my bare hands. I asked him why he thought it was right for him to invade my life. He made me feel like I was crazy. I whispered in his ears that I would be waiting for him when he comes out of jail. I still go to the clearing, but now I know that if anyone tries to take what's mine, I'll make sure they regret it.